Welcome back everyone, Zaf here. I recommend you don't skip any section of this build guide, otherwise you might miss some very important components or explanations. This will result in you messing up with your slime's performance. Now this build guide targets those of you who are in the mid-game stage, which would mean the majority of players. This is essentially the best free-to-play build possible, and the best option for pay-to-win players who are not yet at the current late game stage. To clarify, that means for those of you who around the stages of Late Inferno, Cocytus, Heaven, and Early Extreme. These are the build elements you do want to consider incorporating. Now, I do want to start things off with Magic Gear, because this sets the base of the build, where you'll start to understand where we are headed with it. Magic Gear is not a requirement of this build, but it does amplify it so much more. So as you start unlocking your Magic Gear, which I know many of you haven't yet, I'll tell you which ones to focus on. That way you do ensure this build is as successful as possible. Also, a big congrats to Texture Soup for our last giveaway win. With every build guide I do a giveaway, this time for two $50 gift cards to either the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Your choice on which one you do want. Just be subscribed to the channel and comment down below to enter, and make sure to like the video as well and have notifications on. That way you will know if you've won. We also have one more active giveaway on our toy glitch video, so do check that out as well. Another piece of great news is that one of our favorite mods, F2P, is holding a meme competition in our Discord server. The first place prize is $50 as well. The contest has just started, so come join in and submit your Legend of Slime memes to enter. The Discord invite code is LOSG. Links are in the comment and description box as well to join. And while you are in the comment section, be sure to drop your referral codes as well if you have yet to unlock Love Cat. If I see you are subscribed to the channel, I'll pin your code to the top of the video so it gets used much quicker. Now let's start things off with Magic Gear. For this build, the only relevant staff would be Umbrella. That is because of the Terrify damage bonus. Bat Bombardment, Summon Hydra, Lord of Hell, and Warrior Breaker are all irrelevant for the mid-game stage and free-to-play late game, so you want to go for the Terrify damage, as Terrify will be used in this build and I'll explain why shortly. Next up, for your scroll, on the theme of Terrify damage, you do want to go for Bounty. It provides additional Terrify damage on top of this bonus here at the legendary stage, where Terrify deals more damage when fewer enemies are hit. That means on the stage boss, it'll deal a ton of damage, so this is the route to go for. Now, if you don't have the Bounty scroll unlocked, you can temporarily go for Scroll if you have that one instead, or even Dictionary if you have a rating in Comet. These are just temporary, you should only be using them at the epic stage. Otherwise, do go for Bounty, especially at Epic 3, that way you will get the legendary bonus. Now for your hat, you will be going with Wizard Hat. You could also go for Straw Hat again at the epic stage, or Fedora as well if you have a Radiant Comet unlocked, but as you unlock the legendary hat, you do want to go for Wizard Hat. Lightning Strike is a very strong skill, and it does allow you to branch out your build into other elements, so do go for Wizard Hat. It does provide a very monstrous buff to Lightning Strike. For your bag, the initial best choice will be Wineskin if you are using Detonative Slime, but do not get it too legendary. The best choice for a bag at the legendary mark would be Metal Bag, but the initial bonus is a bit weak, only providing 25% of HP. Again, not terrible. If, for example, you are using Straw Hat at the epic stage, you can use Wineskin to further boost your Detonative Slime damage. Again, with these builds, it does depend on what you do have unlocked, so I do recommend at least analyzing what you have. Wineskin will be better in the beginning, but then if you want to get your bag to legendary, you don't want to fuse any metal bags into your Wineskin. You do want to go for that legendary metal bag, so make sure you do note this. The 100% attack bonus at full HP is very substantial, basically doubling your damage. Since I know the majority of you have felt this, where you do face a stage boss, you do die right away, so having this 100% attack bonus will be much better, as you'll get that bonus until you die or until the stage boss does reach you. Human Bag is only good for those heavy pay-to-win players, so don't pay attention too much to it. Huge Wallet isn't good at all, and A-Frame is just terrible. We do not want Meteor Swarm damage. It's one of the worst skills in the game. Now for your Flask, never go for Hip Flask. Technically speaking, if you do die, it is the best choice at the exotic stage, but no one is going to unlock Hip Flask, so please don't use this. It has the exact same stats as Mug, mug, but it only does last 10 seconds, ignoring the exotic stage, which none of us will honestly get. If you compare them, boss damage 40%, boss damage 40% here, attack, attack, crit, crit, attack, attack. So it's the same magic item, but just way worse. So for your flask, you do have some options. Trophy and flask are basically the same. A 50% attack boost and a 50% critical damage boost are the same. HP, attack and attack, these are all the same. This is essentially the same relic. However, you do want to make the choice. Will this 30% HP boost really help you if you are being one-shot by the stage boss? In that case, if you are, I do recommend going for mug. That 30% HP boost isn't going to do too much for you, whereas a 50% crit boost, now that'll provide some nice damage. So my recommendation is to go for mug. It is the best choice for that mid-game stage, especially for this build. Now for lantern, there honestly isn't too many options here. They're all very bad. We don't want any goblin companion attack. Having 100% HP is okay with bird companions unlocked, but this is mostly an early game magic item. Astri isn't a strong slime, so this bonus isn't going to help us out at all, and bat companions are never used. So in this case, we want to look at the legendary item bonuses. Snail companions are useful, and I'll explain why shortly. And considering the best options here all provide 50% attack, your honest best choice will just be going for Lava Lantern, since it provides the same bonuses and it actually has a useful epic bonus, so this is the lantern to choose. Now with magic items covered, I always recommend not copying the ones I have here. These are the absolute late game magic items. These won't benefit you at all. Only the smallest percentage of people will benefit from what I use, so again, don't copy my magic items, go with what I recommended earlier. Now to continue on, I want to move on to traits. Traits really do set the standard for this build. As you can see, I've talked about this multiple times before. You want to go for 1, 2, 3 attack traits, and you want to go for 2 skill attack traits. I know this seems like an interesting combo, but I'll show you why in just a second. And speaking of traits, you want to go for the following synergy effect. You want to go for at least 4 Hydra traits, that being the orange traits. They provide the highest attack boost. Fiend is absolutely useless. This doesn't even provide a marginal boost, and I'll explain why later. Same with this green bonus. Slime provides no damage at all. Our basic attack for slimes does nothing, so completely ignore that. So once you have these 4 orange traits, you can pick between 1 ghost trait and 1 vampire trait. It's completely up to you. One other option is if you do get these traits, that being 3 attack and 2 skill traits, you might end up with 3 orange, 1 blue, and 1 purple trait. If that does happen, I don't recommend re-rolling right away. That combination can still help you out with surviving, so you can just save up your trait points until you have enough to re-roll for that 4th orange trait, but again, you're not losing too much damage. In fact, that extra survivability might help you in elements like Sage Boss battles and Slime Legion. So again, that's up to you. With build guides, you do have a lot of options to take based on what you're running with right now. Now, the reason why we do take these skill attack traits is of course because we're boosting up our skills damage. If you look at my slime stats, you'll see some interesting numbers. The first being this critical damage bonus, and I'm sure you can tell, these are a lot of numbers. My critical damage is in the billions now, so that is why for your traits, you never go with Fiend. 400 isn't much of a bonus when you put into billions, so that's why we don't go for Fiend as one of our traits. Now going back to our stats, you can see here I have 40,000 skill damage. That is a very, very high number. That is because our traits do multiply with our talismans, specifically this talisman here, the Talisman of Sharpness. So the higher this level gets, the more of a multiplicative boost your traits cause it to have, which is one of the bases for this build. You do ideally want this unlocked to have the highest effect with this build. As it starts reaching the level 5, 10, 15, 20 mark, it makes this build so much stronger. So don't worry if you change this build and initially doesn't provide too much damage. Once you do get this legendary talisman unlocked, you'll have such a nice bonus. And again, for those of you who didn't know, your talismans do unlock downwards, so once you get this epic to level 100, all the extras will go into your legendary talisman. You do need 3 for each one, so I thought I'd just let you know about that tip. Now we have covered traits, we have covered talismans, let's move on to our rings. This is very important as well. As you can see, I'm running a companion damage and boss damage ring. This is not what you want. This only goes well for the latest game build, so don't follow this. What you actually do want is to boost your boss damage. So if we look, our boss damage is so much lower than our skill damage, meaning every additional amount we put in here will be a much higher boost to our overall damage to stage bosses. Your damage is not based on your companion damage number because our focus is not our companions or our slimes, so you do want to focus on that boss damage amount. Another attribute you want to go for on your rings would be HP, since rings do provide a fairly high HP number. The more HP you have, the longer you could survive, meaning you deal more damage, so that's another option you want to go for. And if we quickly look at a skill, for example, our skills use attack as their damage multiplier, so getting attack on your rings is another great option. That way you will deal more damage. And one thing you do want to consider as well is what ring to choose. Well, there are 3 options for the rings you can go for. You can either go for a lightning strike ring, that being a blue D rank ring. You could go for a Rosetta ring, that being an A rank ring, which does boost Terrify damage. And you could also go for a C rank ring, which is an old ring, which does boost Reaper damage. Ideally, you do want to go for a Terrify ring. I do believe it's the highest damage bonus you can get, on top of the base bonuses the ring does provide. With such high attack values, your skills will be boosted as well. As you can see, it's a 3000% difference from a D ring. So again, I'll leave that option to you. You can go for either ring. With Slime Legion, it's all about RNG, so you technically do have 3 options. Just make sure you pick the right attributes, and your luck with the grade will be based on how lucky you get in the run, on top of which ring you get, since there's multiple D and A rank rings, so it's all based on RNG. But ideally, you want to go for that Rosetta Stone ring. Terrify will probably be your best damage option. Now on that note, let me quickly go into toys and then we'll cover skills. For your toys, you don't want any companion damage, you don't want crit as well. This was the old meta. Ideally for your toys, you do want boss damage on it, and also you want to go for HP. And considering our skills are our primary damage source, skill cooldown will never hurt as well, so if you get a don't threat, it's not a terrible option. The skill damage on toys is not multiplicative with our talismans or traits, meaning this is just a 1000% addition to the 40,000 I do have right now, which would be the same bonus as skill cooldown for me, but for you this might be a higher bonus. So ideally, you want to go for boss damage, HP, and skill damage or skill cooldown on your toys. That is the end game you want to go for. And of course, you want to make sure your toy is matching with the slime you are using. And that does remind me, the best slime you can use right now is, dependent on whether or not you are free to play or pay to win. If you are free to play, Aku is the strongest choice, that being due to these bonuses he does get. These evolution bonuses make him a very strong slime. And if we do look at our second best slime, that being Serpine for damage, instead of that critical damage bonus I showed you earlier, she does get movement speed. Movement speed, as far as I know, is not useful, so in terms of damage, Aku does edge out ahead. But with Serpine, if you do watch her skill, when she does jump up, she becomes invulnerable, and when a stage boss does reach her, she still has that old skill where she gets knocked back and dodges the attacks. I'll demonstrate this in a second. As you can see, Serpine is about to jump back, so you saw there, that gives you a bit more survivability. So if you don't die right away to the stage boss, Serpine is probably your best bet because you can stay in the battle longer, cast more skills, and deal more damage. But if you do die right away, Aku will probably be your best choice because he gets that slight damage boost, meaning if you're gonna die at the same time, you might as well get that damage bonus that his evolution does provide. The other free-to-play slimes are useless, at least for now, until more evolutions do come out. And in terms of the best pay-to-win options for this build, since we aren't focused on our slime skill damage, Gent will be your best bet because he does double all damage on enemies for 18 seconds, meaning your skills are dealing double the damage, making him the best option for this build. But if you do die right away, you can look at other options such as Tau. The reason why Tau is good is because when his slime skill is cast, he does become invincible, as you see there, so that does let you survive a bit longer, meaning you can deal more damage like I mentioned before. Again, it's dependent on your build. Gent is the best for damage, but again, based on your circumstance, Tau might be better. And if you don't have those two slimes, you can use slimes like Rudolph. They do provide a boost to your damage as well, in this case providing critical damage of 50% for 5 seconds. So it will be based on which slimes you have, and we will have a slime tier list coming up where we do clarify these elements as well. And I know I'm using Ignis, that's because for my build, which does focus on companion damage, Ignis becomes one of the strongest slimes. Their evolution is so powerful, but for the build I'm talking about right now, do not use Ignis because your damage will be nerfed. Now we have covered rings, toys, and talismans. We've covered traits. Now let's move on to relics. You do have some options here for your bottle. You can use Slime Mucin. The instance where you would use Slime Mucin is when you have the astrology constellation unlocked, that being Rainy Day, where a frog tag can be added to a snail companion, and I'll explain why that is good. But if you don't have Rainy Day unlocked, you can try using ancient coins, but you can also play around with your snail companions, and I'll explain why shortly, because with Slime Mucin, the enemy movement speed is reduced by 70%, so that 70% speed reduction will make the enemy take much longer to reach you, meaning you'll cast a bunch of skills in that time frame. So this is still a very good option, even if you don't have that astrology node unlocked. I would test both of these out. Once I do cover our companions, you can switch one out for a snail, but again, we will get to that later. And for our gem relics, you want to go for opal, because we are focused on skills. Slimy Press will receive such a nice bonus with our treasures as well, which I'll cover, so go for this one. But if you do have a wizard hat for your magic item, I do recommend at least trying topaz. That way you can gauge whether or not opal or topaz will be best option for you. Next up, you do want to go for Regal Pillow, the skill cooldown buff it does provide, reducing a random skill by 0.05 seconds for every hit your companions land is very strong. You'll be able to cast your skills much sooner, and since skills are the basis for our damage, this is the option you do want to go for. And for your necklace, you do have two options. If you're dying right away, I do recommend Sacred Necklace. Now, if this doesn't help you survive longer, you can try out Evil Spirit with Pearl Necklace. Again, since this is a skill damage build, Evil Spirit will be boosted from it on top of the bonus that Pearl Necklace does provide. So again, you do need to test things out. These build elements depend on what you have right now, so try out both and see which one is better for you. And next up for our mask, again, if you're dying right away, Kitsune Mask is your best option, but if you aren't dying right away, you can use Folksy Mask. It does decrease enemy attack by 80%, allowing you to survive so much longer. And if you are facing a melee boss, you can equip Kitsune Mask until the stage boss does reach you, and then quickly switch to Folksy Mask. That way you get both the damage bonus and then the survivability it provides. And again, based on masks, Folksy Mask is better, but maybe Slime Mask is better for you, depending on the level you have it at. So do try both for survivability, but again, if you die right away regardless, I do recommend using Kitsune Mask for the bonus. And for our books, it's the easiest option that requires little explanation. Go with Tome of Disorder. The other books are just terrible in comparison, so make sure to go for this book as it provides such a heavy bonus. Watch as I swap it out. Our damage gets absolutely crushed, so be sure to use the right book. And one tip I want to give you for your masteries, this will save you a ton of slime shards. Let's say you only have enough for this node, and this node. Since you want the attack bonus, you can just reset it for 10 gems before you do level up your slimes. So instead of putting all your points in here, you put them into EXP, getting that 60% EXP bonus, so you use your shards and get so much more value out of them. And then once you're done leveling up your slimes, you just reset it. It only costs 10 gems, and then you get your attack bonus again, while also saving so many slime shards. This works for this tier as well. Again, you should really reset your masteries when you do go ahead and level up your slimes. If you only have enough for these nodes here, you should reset them for 10 gems, put them all into this EXP node to level up your slimes, because you really want to miss out on this 200% EXP bonus. You're going to waste your shards if you don't do this, so this is a tip I heavily recommend. Now, next up, I do want to cover our treasures. The only treasure useful for this build will be Slime Doll. It provides a damage bonus to Slimy Press, which is excellent for this build. Plush Lycan is terrible. The crit bonus it provides is unnoticeable, so don't go for that. We don't go for Battle Sphere, so Slime Doll is useless, and this is not a early game bird build, so we do not need Chick Doll. Next up, Sun Crown is the best option for your crown treasure. I always clarify this element. It says add 3 or more bats, but you do not need any bat companions for this 80% flat attack bonus. Again, you can see me removing it and equipping it. I don't have a single bat companion equipped. The bat element is only for casting Battle Sphere, which is useless, so Sun Crown is the best option here. The 50% attack bonus is huge. The other treasures just don't match up. Now, because in this build we do use frogs, you do want to go for frog vase. You can see we have a bunch of options for frogs, including this snail here, so it's such an easy damage bonus to get, so go for frog vase. These other options don't provide any bonus, so don't worry about them. Now, for your plant, you have two options. If you do just barely survive and still need some extra HP, I do recommend going flexible bamboo, but if you don't survive, I do recommend ancient bonsai, while also using the Reaper skill. The damage it provides with the skill damage build will be quite substantial, so go for this route. And the same goes for your food option. If you survive the sage boss, go for gold bread, but if you're dying right away, you can go for explosive taco. It provides a little bit more damage, but if you're running at least 3 frog companions, Lotus Macaroon is probably the best option to go for because it does cast an additional skill, that being Reaper, so try using Lotus Macaroon, especially if you are running ancient bonsai. That damage bonus it provides can be very nice, but otherwise if you do survive, go for gold bread. The 15 seconds of additional battle time is huge, so no damage bonus can compare. And lastly, for your armor, do go for Dwarf King armor. It provides an 89% attack bonus, which is exactly what you need for this build. The other armors here don't provide any bonus, so Dwarf King armor is the one you want to go for. Now we have 3 more areas to cover, that being astrology, companions, and skills. I do want to go to companions. For your companions, you want to run as many frogs as possible to get that bonus. You can run cats as well. I do recommend you switching out between them. Some considerations to make here is if you don't have the astrology node unlocked, which does make a snail into a frog, I do recommend removing it and putting a cat in its place. That is if you have the gentle cat constellation unlocked, because every added cat companion does provide a 50% attack bonus, which is very nice. I do also recommend putting your mythic frog on this node because it does get the cat tag added onto it, which means more damage, and since it is a frog, it gets the frog vase bonus as well, meaning you get a ton of damage. The same goes for the exotic companion slot for this bonus. Again, a cat tag is added on to your exotic companion. The best option is a frog, but you can put on any other exotic companion, and then you can just switch your companions around. Try a cat, see if you deal more damage. Try the exotic companion with frog on it if you don't have the steel frog unlocked. Again, you should swap between them and see what works best for you. These all depend on the unlocks you do have, so your damage is heavily dependent on that, but this should set a baseline. You basically want cats and frogs, and you want to especially go for frogs if you have the rainy day constellation fully unlocked. I'm honestly not sure if it provides that much of a bonus, that being frog companions gain 300% attack with dark clouds equipped. I believe your skills will deal more damage regardless, but again, these are the things you need to note down when you do start doing your build. Now, with all this said, you want to look at your skills because they are going to be your primary damage source. Again, these are the skills that you're most likely going to consider. Slimy Press does a ton of easy damage, especially with that legendary talisman unlocked. With your treasure and relic bonuses, this is such an easy damage dealer. Terrify becomes amazing when you get those magic items, and once you get that Rosetta ring. The same goes for lightning strikes, that being with the magic item bonus and ring bonus that you can get. Again, these are all dependent on what you have unlocked and what your best options are. These are all things you should try out. Same goes for Evil Spirit. Again, with the magic item and relic, for example, these are all bonuses you should consider when making your skill option choices. And Reaper as well is a great choice if you are using the old ring and if you're using Bonsai Tree for that bonus. Again, these skill choices are the ones you should be making, but I'm outlining which ones are the best so you can test it out with the build you're using to see which one deals the most damage. And Irradiating Comet is here because it does provide that cooldown bonus, so having it equipped can reset your best skill, for example Slimy Press or Terrify, meaning you'll deal much more damage. And one thing I do recommend is to not have all your skill slots unlocked. I recommend taking away some of your skills. For example, this could be your best setup because then Regal Pillow won't reset the cooldown on your worst skills, meaning you'll be able to deal more damage as it resets your best skill options. The same goes for Irradiating Comet. Let's say you have Detonative Slime on your skill lineup, but it's your least damage dealing skill. Do you really want Irradiating Comet resetting the cooldown on it, or do you want it to reset Terrify, for example, giving you so much more damage in comparison? And one thing I do want to note is I get a lot of questions as to why my Slimy Press does look different than yours. My Slimy Press is red. That is because Furious Giant Slimes appear for Slimy Press, because I do have the Fury Constellation fully unlocked, and I have the level 20 Irradiant Comment equipped, so if we do look at my skill, when Slimy Press does come down, it's red as you saw there. I'll turn off 2x speed so you get a better look. You see there, my Slimy Press looks different, so that should answer your question as I do see it very often. Now, I do believe I covered every element of the game. This build is again for that mid-game stage. This is the best option possible for free-to-play. You do have to build up to it, but this is as good as it gets. And for pay-to-win players, this is the mid to late game build you should be using. Once you get to the very late stages of Extreme, you can go for the build I actually use, which is the best build possible, considering you have everything unlocked. But again, that isn't going to be most of you, so this is probably your best build choice. So hopefully this did clarify some things. Again, this is the ideal build for most people, so if you did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. That way I do know you want more Legend of Slime content like this, and don't forget to leave a comment as well with your LoveCat code and to enter the giveaway we're doing. And that is everything I had for you today. Zaf signing out.